All right, guys, so I'm here in my apartment just pondering on business and this journey that we've been on and that I've been on for a long time. And I wanted to share something that was a realization that came to me that's going to be related towards mindset, business building, essentially psychology. And I've drawn this visualization here to describe a really powerful experience that I had in my business, to where it made me realize the difference of perception versus reality. Okay, and hopefully this can help a lot of you guys who are, worried about anxiety, stressed out about failing in business and in work, in outcomes and worst case scenarios, and stressing for events, for meetings, for interactions, facing conflict, all of these areas that are very difficult to kind of understand and realize as a business owner versus a regular person. There's only certain things that a regular person is going to have to experience a certain bandwidth. So hopefully this is going to save you guys a good amount of time and everything. All right. So the first thing that we have two scenarios. One was worry over nothing. Two is trust gone wrong. All right, so there was one time in my business where I had partners and I was so worried that my clients weren't getting results, that issues weren't being answered, messages weren't being responded to, that payments were being refunded or gonna be charged back, that clients were saying bad things because I was just in this bad mindset, right? To find out that I actually ended up worrying over nothing because I talked to my team member, they opened up the Slack channel message. What I had thought was gonna be the worst nightmare ever over the last 2 weeks was all handled from my team member. And it had gone to show me that although I created so much worry in my head over the event or the scenario, and the worst case scenario possible, that at the end of the day, it was essentially just my perception. But this wasn't powerful, truly, until I faced the exact polar opposite of this. Trust gone wrong. Okay, and this was an event to where I had trusted somebody to, play the role of myself inside of my company and to help my clients, to respond to my team members. And I was told that things were going extremely well, that I had all the time that I wanted to focus on the deep work and the creative work that I truly enjoy, and to let all of it be behind me, and that it was essentially just anxiety, right? And at first, when you experience something like this, it's hard to, because this is what you think. You think you're changing, right? By kind of adopting this mindset. But what then happened was that it was the exact opposite. Although I spent a week working on what I enjoyed doing, I had that clarity and that peace of mind. The worst was actually happening and occurring in real life, in the real world, right? And the thing is that this actually didn't impact me at all mentally or in that exact situation, right? And what ended up happening was, I think it was a chargeback. I essentially was under the impression that somebody was responding and giving support to a newly onboarded client. And we had set a horribly wrong expectation that I thought was not my duty and my responsibility, as per, talking with my team at the time. So what's really powerful is that you can have both of these situations happen to where, one, you're worrying and you think that a refund's happening, you think that messages aren't being responded to, and then the situation was handled. And you can also have this one, the exact opposite. But what it goes to show is that as an entrepreneur, you can't have your hands and head in everything, right? It's nearly impossible to build relationships with every customer who buys, with every prospect that you talk to, with every sales call that you have, with every follow-up that you do. It's just unrealistic. And instead of adopting a mindset of like, oh, well, because I can't handle that, the worst case scenarios are happening or are happening, a lot of times people will ruin for example, like this situation, they will let this kind of, and this is how it's happened to me, they will let this manifest for so long that they would rather accept this as the worst case scenario, right, than truly resolve the problem itself or the issue, let's say with the client or with, whoever the conflict is, right? So people would rather self-sabotage the relationship than addressing it, or they would rather accept this reality than even wanting to see or identify if that is truly the reality or not, right? So one thing to take away from this is that it's inevitable that bad things will happen, that people will get hurt, or that you will fail, or that an expectation or a boundary will be broken at some point. And it's about kind of the mindset that you go into it, of being almost kind of emotionless, right? And I know that sounds kind of bad at the same time, but if you truly think about it, once you have these very, very diverse, set of scenarios happen to you, how can you go into things like, trusting, and how can you go into things worrying? You just can't. You can't go into things with either. You just need to be constantly in a state of, let's say, action, right? Instead of inaction, just straight action. Like, yeah, I guess that's kind of the point. I guess you guys probably get it by this point. But hopefully this helped some of you guys. And I was just in a period today where I was kind of just stuck. And I was like, you know what? Why am I going into problems and situations with anxiety? And I'm like, this is exactly what you need in order to succeed, because there's gonna be so many more problems that you face, right? Like, to give you an example, I want to make this video short, but it's like, if you think you need money, I could go find you a client right now that will pay you $1 million, but you're going to be expected to allocate $200K to team members, managing them, creating the scope of the project, making sure that you're on calls every single week, right? And like all these expectations. And you could still get that money, but you could shut down and you could break down and you could self-sabotage straight off of fear of failure, even though you're granted or given the opportunity. So I just want to say that, sometimes you got to be kind of emotionless going into this. And yeah, I think it's maybe the only way, but I'm curious to know what you guys think.